Today's guest has mastered the art of education, influence, and culture.
And that includes both being intolerant of those people who are rude, who are mean, who are unable to demonstrate respect for the country and decent behavior, who are unable to understand a sense of duty towards other people. And he most certainly didn't say live and let live. Don't be ridiculous. That there ought to be order in society and that we should obey the 10 Commandments, for instance.
From being dismissed as too strict, too bold, too controversial, to becoming one of the most powerful voices in British education, she has built a school that rewrites rules, shattering expectations and proving that excellence isn't an accident, it's engineered.
The country is unable to know what it is. The country has forgotten old values, which were Judeo-Christian values that I very much instill in our children at our school. It's not about me having the right to do whatever I want. It's about me having certain responsibilities. Responsibility to myself in not letting myself down, but responsibility to my family, to my community. I behave in such a way that is worthy of respect and admiration.
And today she's giving out the secrets, exposing the fake patriots in the country and defending the work that she has done for years, unapologetically claiming the respect she deserves.
I've been building something, actually doing something and delivering on the ground, working within the state to make this country better. And I have improved not just my school, but schools across the country in countless ways by the things that I have done.
So in this episode, we'll dive into the science of reading children and unveil the reason why her school is doing way better than others and what the country needs to stay strong. Can Muslim children assimilate?
Look.
Katharine Birbalsingh. For the viewers who are watching us today, could you take a moment to just tell us who you really are and what you've been doing, or what are you doing?
Yes, well, my name is Katharine Birbalsingh and I'm the headmistress of Michaela Community School, which is a school in Brent, in Wembley. We opened in 2014. We've now been going for 11 years. We're considered to be quite controversial, I'd say, because I expect children to do as they're told.
Yeah.
But in 2026, this is considered to be quite a radical idea. I was part of the founding group that set up the school in 2014. Actually, I came up with the idea in 2010, so it took us 3.5 years to actually open the school. And there was lots of pushback from the left, I would say. Not all lefties were against us, but quite a number of them were, because it was a free school, and free schools were a Conservative Party idea that came about in 2010 by Michael Gove. So I'd also spoken at the Conservative Party conference in 2010, and if you go on YouTube and put my name in with Conservative Party conference 2010, you'll see the 6-minute speech that changed my life and basically got me kicked out of education totally, which you would imagine what on earth did I say? Well, I just said liberal left-leaning people were letting down ethnic minority children. We were making excuses for all of our children, and that the left, unfortunately, while it's done much good in education, I think at that point I was saying they'd gone too far and that we needed to pull things back more to the center. So I've been saying the same thing ever since, over and over again. And I've also proved what I was talking about in that conference, party conference, in 2010. I've proved that children do well with traditional values, traditional behavior, discipline, and also traditional teaching, because that's what we do here at Michaela. And This is my office. I have a meeting with my senior team every morning at 7 a.m. I'm not in school before 7 a.m. every day because I hate children. It's because I love them. I love our children, but I love all children. And we get over 1,000 guests every year, mainly teachers from across the country, but also across the world, who come to see what we do here and take ideas back to their classrooms. And I would say that we've had a lot of impact on education in the country, in that people have really changed their minds about what is possible. And they've taken a lot of our ideas and systems and so on and introduced those ideas to their schools and have made things better for their children as well.
Yeah. In the search of looking up what you've done and stuff, what you've contributed so far to the educational system. It looks like a lot of people on the right have been praising your work, have been basically you are the blueprint, I have to say. Yeah, if that's okay, I think, blueprint in a sense where even the Conservative Party have kind of nominated you to be the person who will lead this thing. Multiple parties on the right, but there is a lot. Now before say it again.
I don't think anyone's nominated me. I'm far too difficult and prickly for any politician or political party to want to take ownership of me, because they know I would never. I don't belong to any political party. I'm a floating voter. They would never be able to control me. So I don't think what you're saying is true.
No, but they like what you do. They would like to copy what you've done, but not take you with it. Do you know what I mean?
I think there are individual politicians who, some of whom are on the right, many of whom are on the right, who like us. But that doesn't mean all politicians on the right like us.
Oh yeah, of course. And
I would also say that there are people on the left who like what we do. So, I don't recognize what you're saying. The Conservative Party have by no means endorsed our school or, kind of got me representing the Conservative Party.
No, that's not what I mean. I mean, there've been a lot of people on the right who have been speaking very, well about your school and how especially when it comes to British culture and stuff. There've been a lot of people on the right, also on the left too, who have praised the things that you've done. But yeah, I do. Of course, I do not mean that the party itself has endorsed you. I think that was kind of wrong myself to mention. But speaking of appreciation, there's a lot of people who obviously appreciate your work, but also there's a lot of people who disagree as well. I'm sure I've seen you debating with multiple of these guys who, of course, appreciate your work, like Heretics. They appreciate your work so much. You can tell by that podcast that you did with him, and also the debates that you did with Dan Wootton. They like your work, but they also think, hey, it would be better if we replaced some stuff, or maybe replace you as a whole. Now, how do you think they come to this? What do you think they agree with that you do, and what is it that they disagree with the whole thing that you're doing? Particularly on the right. Say it again.
I don't think they agree with what I do. I don't think they dislike me as a person. So when they say, look, we like you, that they're sort of saying, they're being friendly to me. They're not being impolite, but they don't like what I do. They dislike it quite intensely. And they dislike it because they think that, bizarrely, they seem to think that I am responsible for the mass migration that is happening in the country. And the reason for that is because they'll say, they have said that because I get multiculturalism at my school to thrive and work well, there are politicians who look at my school and then decide that they need to bring huge numbers of migrants into the country. My school opened in 2014. Mass migration started a decade or more before my school even existed. It's absurd to suggest, and plus, no one had ever really come to visit our school until maybe 2019 when we got our first set of GCSE results. So this idea that somehow a politician would be so stupid as to look at one school and then make a policy decision on bringing in a whole load of immigrants because of what we do at our school is just mad. There are all kinds of complex geopolitical reasons for why we have the migrants that we've got, and they have nothing to do with me. I am simply running a school in Wembley and running it well, and I'm doing so in ways that I think all of the schools should do, whatever their intake, because I think traditional discipline, traditional teaching, and traditional values are good for all children, whatever their race, whatever their religion. I'll always stand by that. Kids are kids. It doesn't matter what their backgrounds are. Kids are kids, and they're all naughty. And they need adults leading the way.
Yeah. But that's kind of fascinating, the fact that you're being blamed for the migration in the country. It's like, how can you effectively add anything to that? Because I would say if somebody was to criticize your work, will be based on what you're teaching the kids. But it looks like what you're teaching the kids is something that they all want. So why would they disagree with how you're going around it?
Yeah, it's an interesting point that you make, because they say, you know, how dare you teach them Kipling and Shakespeare, and how dare you get them to sing God Save the King?
We didn't
Now,
even
what
do
I
that in my
don't,
school. Sorry to cut you. Even
you
not long ago, I was in school. We didn't even do that in my school.
know, and that's what's interesting. What I don't, I mean, you're talking about the ethno-nationalists, although I understand that they don't like being called ethno-nationalists. I think they might call themselves nationalists, but either way, that group of people, um, they don't like me doing that. Now, what I don't understand is whether they think schools shouldn't read Kipling and Shakespeare and Auden and, you know, I don't know, any of our English authors. Do they think that we shouldn't read them, and no school should read them? Or do they think that only children who are immigrants to the country shouldn't read those authors? Or do they think that uh, getting these children to read these authors is somehow bad because this leads to mass migration? That's what I'm not entirely sure. And it's not just reading the authors, it's singing God Save the King, flying a British flag. So you'll find at lots of schools they won't fly the British flag because they are ashamed of Britain and they wouldn't want to put the British flag up. Instead, they might have pride flags, or they might have all kinds of symbols that might signify, you know, various issues around the world, Ukraine, a Palestine flag, that sort of thing.
Mm,
And we only have one flag at Michaela, and that's the British flag.
that's
Now,
right.
again, the ethno-nationalists who are critical of me, I'm not sure whether they would prefer us to fly pride flags. I, I don't really understand what they think I should be doing differently at school. You know, they don't really say. They just don't like the fact that I exist at all, and that our children exist, and that we're all in one building together. Like, they
It,
take real issue with the fact that the children, you know, we have very few white children, you know.
yeah.
I've even had some of them tell me that I've obviously murdered the white children, which seems a rather extreme thing to suggest.
Yeah. I mean, what you just said there, and of course the podcast that I've seen, the interaction that you've had with a lot of these people, especially on Twitter, they're very vile towards you on Twitter. It's like, I don't really understand how they do that. How somebody could say something like that about somebody that they don't know, who's obviously contributing very great to our country, especially to the young minds. But it looks like their language is very blurry. It's like the way they address these topics, especially when it comes to your school, because they know that you're doing good, but they don't know what they should criticize. And we all know, well, to myself, I feel like it's something to do with race, but they do not want to say it like that. So it's kind of so blurry, like, oh, you're doing this good, but, you know, what could, in your
That's what
assessment, what have you seen? What could it indicate? What does it indicate? What does it suggest? What could it be?
Well, they get very annoyed, for instance, that I dare to have a conversation around Britishness. Um, you know, I'm calling myself British. Um, I'm an immigrant, so I don't really have the right to be able to comment on the Christian nature and the history of the country. I don't really have the right to talk about, um, well, I suppose immigrants and what would be best for all of our children, which includes immigrant children and white children.
Yeah.
They seem to get very angry that I have opinions at all. Um, and because I don't have that right, I suppose, being an immigrant, that's what I've understood. Because when I give my opinion, um, they they get very angry about it. And rather than just have a discussion about, well, why might you disagree with what I'm saying? And what am I saying? I'm saying that all children in the country should be taught a traditional curriculum, which would include English authors and British history. an accurate version of British history. I find it all a bit confusing. What am I meant to do differently? I could teach the children to hate the country, like I would suggest that too many teachers are doing,
Yeah, true.
because they are so embarrassed about Britain and its past, its colonial past. They're embarrassed about slavery. They're very awkward about white privilege. And so they teach children to dislike the country unwittingly. I don't think they mean to, but that's what
Mm.
ends up happening. I'm not teaching our children to do that. I'm teaching them to love the country. Um, I'm teaching them to support the English football team when they play and to feel
Exactly.
very much as if they're British. I
To
think
feel
they really
apart.
don't like that. Brown and black children should not feel as if they're British.
Are you liking this video? Well, don't just watch. Click the like button, share, and subscribe so you don't miss the next video or the next live stream that we do. And if you want us to keep getting better and recruit more people and grow, then please support us financially. The first link in the description. By doing so, you'll be able to get access to private videos and private forum between you and I and other members. Let's get back into the video.
And me treating, English literature and British history as if it is the birthright of the children in my care, who are in the main immigrant children, brown and black children, that offends them somehow, because I suppose that English culture belongs to white English people. I mean,
Mm.
interestingly, I would argue that those ideas are mirrored very much on the left. The left believe that when you have black or brown children in front of you, you might not want to teach them Shakespeare or Kipling, because these black and brown children cannot see themselves in that poem or in the literature. So I actually think the ethno-nationalists and the leftists really do map onto each other perfectly. And I find I'm arguing with both sides all of the time, because they're not treating brown and black children like they would treat other white children. And for me, all children are the same.
Mhm.
I find it very disturbing that we've got to this point where we're actually um, we're 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 looking at a child's ethnicity and saying they are fundamentally different because of their ethnicity. I just don't agree with that. I'm never going to agree with that. And
Yeah.
I just yeah, I don't really understand why anyone would say that. I can understand some concerns that people might have when they look
Right.
at the country and think, "Oh my goodness, there's too much immigration." That I get,
Correct.
and it's a concern I share, right?
Mhm.
Um, I understand the concern they might have when they say, "Yes, but wait a minute, we've lost our." If they were to say, "We've lost our small c conservative values. We've lost our old-fashioned way of doing things." And the traditions that this country used to have, I would agree with that, but I wouldn't
Mm.
say that that's all down to immigration. And it's all a bit sad, really, that they're pointing at me and saying that
Yeah.
I'm the one responsible for the demise of the country. I mean, it's just insane.
Yeah, it's definitely unfair as well. Which I want to get a little bit personal here, because you said here on Dan Wootton's show with Connor, I believe, you said, quote, "You've spent, well, I have spent nearly 30 years transforming the lives of children and the education system in this country to make it better, to make it a better place." Now, that's a lot of times. All right, I'm just 24 years old. 30 years doing that, transforming and teaching children who are not yours. Why? Why so
Yeah,
much
well,
care and passion for this?
and thank you for saying that. When you say I'm 24, what you're showing me is a bit of respect. You're saying, you know what, Catherine, I haven't been around for anywhere near as long as you have, and I haven't been doing the work that you've been doing on the ground for longer than I've been alive, which is also the case with some of these people who I've been arguing with.
Mm.
And they then tell me that they know more than me and that I should know my place because I'm an immigrant and therefore I'm not entitled to the views that I've got. And my position is I've been building something, actually doing something and delivering on the ground, working within the state to make this country better. And I have improved not just my school, but schools across the country in countless ways by the things that I have done. And yet there's no respect that comes my way. And then you need to ask, well, why is that the case? Why is it that they, not all of them by any stretch of the imagination, but by some of them are so rude and just insulting towards me, or, even though they're not insulting me, will not give me the respect that I think that I'm due, because I'm twice their age.
Yeah.
So, and I've actually done something with my life, and therefore you might ask a question of me. What are you trying to do? How is it you've managed to do this? Why do you think this is better than something else? And so on. But there are never any questions that are given to me in that way, because they lack that respect that you've just demonstrated. So thank you for that. And
Appreciate it. It's fine.
what is it? Why? Well, because I love children. I started off as a teacher. I came to see in teaching in my own classroom that the things that we were being taught in teacher training institutions were wrong, and that we needed to do things differently. And that's the sort of thing that these ethno-nationalists who are accusing me, of being a whatever it is I am, I don't know, that they might think, oh, well, what did Katharine Birbalsingh find out before I was born? What has she then developed as a system and as a structure in her school? And why is it that she does so well? And how can we make our schools better across the country? And how can we make it so that we can all get on better with each other? I mean, their solution is, well, put everybody on a helicopter, including me, and send us home. Despite the fact that some of these people have 2, 3, 4 generations in the country, have contributed enormously to the country, have all their ties and relationships here, have really embedded, the culture, the English culture is very much who they are. And they think it's perfectly reasonable. And I say home, because if you've grown up from entirely in this country and this is your home, then how can anywhere else be your home? But they don't sort of see that. And I think it's quite an immoral position to take, to say to a child whose parents are British and perhaps even grandparents that they aren't British. I just don't understand. Well, I mean, they can say it, of course. And then they'll say, because this is an ethnicity. But while I think there is a point when it comes to English ethnicity, I do think there's such a thing as English ethnicity. I don't think there is such a thing as British ethnicity. In fact, it pulls together all different types of ethnicities. British flags used to fly over Jamaica, as they did over India and what is now India and Pakistan. Britishness has always been a complicated and interesting phenomenon, and aren't we lucky to have it, because we can all belong under it.
Well, that's becoming very debatable now, given the people that I engage with on Twitter. Almost everybody's saying you're going. It's quite funny. You're going home. So the debates now is very. Before it used to be more of like a very intellectual type of. We'll just rustle around and see how far we can get with it, and just boggle our mind with all sort of ideas. But now it's more like, you're going home. Done. It's like, hey, would you come on, let's talk. Why do you think that? Where did you get to this conclusion? Now, I'm sure you probably know or understand a little bit of the consequences that might occur if you were to tell, you mentioned a young boy or young girl who's born here, his parents born here, grandparents born here, mention to them that they are not home, that their home is somewhere else. What would be the consequences of that to that child? Or to that grown up?
Well, that's the thing. It's a good question, that. If children feel as if they don't belong to their country, then they will behave in such a way to overthrow the establishment. That's what they'll do. They won't become good citizens who we can be proud of. They will feel a resentment and an anger towards the country. And that's why I say the left and the ethno-nationalists end up meeting up. They're the same. Because if you deny children a sense of belonging to the country and a knowledge of the literature of the country, a knowledge of the history of the country, if you don't feel part of the country, then you will hate the country. And I would have thought we should all be working towards having the children, whatever color they are, love the country.
Correct.
But the ethno-nationalists are very angry with me for getting our children to love the country. So yeah, and it's an interesting point, because I think this maps on exactly to what the leftists say. We should be instead teaching Black children Black authors and Black history, and we should deny Shakespeare. It would seem they're all in agreement. This Shakespeare, you know, I don't understand why we wouldn't want to teach all children Shakespeare and teach them about Henry VIII, the Second World War and the First World War, and that they should know the dates for both, which actually, if you go up to most children these days, you'll find they don't know when the First World War is or the Second World War was. They
Yeah.
won't know what Churchill did, or they won't know,
I think
the basic geography of the country.
yeah.
You know this stuff if you're
Yeah,
going
you
to feel
meant to.
part of
Yeah, I think I do understand, because when I was in school not long ago, I mentioned when it comes to history, we used to learn more of like the bad guys from the other country, what they did. So the history was very over. It was more about Hitler did this, Hitler did that, and Hitler did this, and it wasn't like, hey, who are we type. And even even today as well, speaking to my niece, I think during Christmas when I was over there, when I was at my mom's house, everybody came around, and I was speaking to my niece of what they've learned so far, and she was telling me about history, and that she learned that, you know, Hitler, Germany invaded Poland, and I was like, what else? What else? And it looks like it looks like what they did was more of painting the other side bad. But how about us? What did we do? Who are we? I mean, you know, who saved this? Who came to a rescue type? And that they kind of leave that out, and it feels like it's still the same till today. Now I want to switch this to some. Go on.
They do tend to do Hitler to death in schools. It tends to be the one thing everyone remembers from
That's
school.
that's the only history now that's they can teach.
Yeah.
But there's so many stuff that we, you know, Britain has contributed to the world that they can also put their time on.
Well, it's also good to know about Alfred the Great. I mean, the fact is that British and English history is very long, and we should teach our children it so that they should know it over, say, the last 1,000 years.
Are you liking this video? Well, don't just watch. Click the like button, share, and subscribe so you don't miss the next video or the next live stream that we do. And if you want us to keep getting better and recruit more people and grow, then please support us financially. The first link in the description. By doing so, you'll be able to get access to private videos and private forum between you and I and other members. Let's get back into the video.
Let's take that. I mean, you know, it would be good for them to know it, because they then feel part of the country. But I think the ethno-nationalists don't like brown and Black children feeling like they're part of the country. So that's a problem for them. The left think, oh no, we shouldn't teach them that history. We should be teaching them instead, for instance, about Mansa Musa in Mali in Africa, because then they'll see themselves in those historical characters, as opposed to Alfred the Great, who they're not going to see themselves in. I don't think in terms of race. I think in terms of kids and belonging to the country. And it doesn't really matter what, I mean, the ethno-nationalists say, we're not talking about race, we're talking about ethnicity.
Yeah, they're very blurry. They're very careful.
You want to say ethnicity instead of race, but I don't think ethnicity matters. The fact that you're ethnically English, you know, if you take a French child who was born in France and then bring the baby up here with English parents, in what way is that child different from the other other children who are growing up who are ethnically English? Of course they're not any different. It's just absurd. They're entirely culturally from here. They'll love their baked beans and their fish pies and their fat chips and their pints of Guinness and so on. And they'll love
pints
their Shakespeare
of Guinness. Which kid is having this?
Well, I mean, when they're older.
Right.
And they'll recognize.
Yeah.
You know, if you show a pint of Guinness to someone in America, they don't really know what it is. Like,
yeah, they don't. Yeah.
Show them baked beans. It's like, what is this? You know?
Yeah.
So, and similarly, if you take an English child and bring them up in America, will they at 10 years old just wake up and go, oh yes, I know baked beans, I know rolling hills, I know Wordsworth instantly because I'm ethnically English. Of course not. They'll be American. They'll
Yeah.
sound American.
Yeah.
They'll love baseball,
Hmm.
basketball. They will not love cricket. They will not love rugby. I mean,
Rugby, yeah. Or
this is just,
football even.
or football. They'll call it
Yeah.
soccer and they'll wonder what on earth football is. Oh, they'll think football is American football. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact is that obviously it matters where you've been brought up. I
Hmm.
mean, I just, it is so bizarre, this idea that all that matters is ethnicity. It's utterly ridiculous. And I totally disagree with it. And I will
I,
continue to reject it till the day I die.
yeah, I am with you on that side. We'll definitely hold hands and fight this battle together because we do have a lot of problem in the country. I agree, but the fact that now the thing that we're talking about is about ethnicity. It's like, hey, look, we got a problem. If you want to talk about which color of the person should go to fix this problem, then you carry on there because that's not fixing the problem. And I think we're stuck here.
That, what you just said is exactly the point. In what way are you actually doing something to help? In what way are you actually helping to fix the problem? Because I've spent close to 30 years fixing problems in the country, and I've dedicated my entire life to doing this, and I have succeeded in many, many ways. What you need to ask yourself as a viewer of this, and there'll be people, no doubt, who will then be throwing abuse at me again, is what are you doing? Is what you're doing sitting behind a keyboard and just tapping out insults at people? Is that what you do? Or are you actually doing something? Perhaps you're writing a book. Perhaps you're doing a job where you're actually helping people. Perhaps you're a social worker or a teacher. Or perhaps you go out and earn lots of money and then you're setting up a charity or donating to a soup kitchen. Perhaps on a Sunday you go to a soup kitchen and help out there. In what way are you actually changing the country for the better? Or are all you doing sitting on a keyboard, insulting those of us who are changing the country for the better? That's what I would ask people. I mean, you can insult me for saying it, if that sort of makes you feel better, but you're not making the country any better. And it's interesting, Baraka, when you say about, it didn't used to be like this.
Yeah.
Those people who have become like this, don't be that person. I would say to you, look, there is lots to complain about. I get it. I get that the country is in real difficulty, and I share your concerns. So then have real conversations with people who are making a difference to changing it for the better. Don't just sit behind a keyboard and insult people who have a different skin color to you, because it's just, well, it's just not very nice.
Yeah, it's not nice, and it probably discourages people like you and I in contribute any sort of way in the country because we feel like we're not going to be seen or be heard or even be represented at a very high level, or even be spoke about or for at the higher level. That's how it feels,
Right. Well, I have to say, nobody's ever going to discourage me. I've been doing this all my life.
That's
I'll
right.
continue doing it.
Yeah,
And they
30.
can say about me.
Yeah.
But I'm just asking them to think, especially those of us who are interested in Christianity, perhaps are Christian ourselves. We need to think to ourselves, is this really what Jesus would do? Is this really what a true Christian would do?
But they'll call you a lefty for doing that, though, because that's the lefty talking point, right? Jesus wouldn't do this type
I don't
of
think
stuff.
so.
Yeah, they do. I mean, I've raised these type of arguments in a lot of where bringing actually theology into it. They kind of call you a lefty for using, because Jesus was more of like a tolerant person who kind of let live type of person. And
no, I won't have that. No way.
Go on.
This was not that person. What are you talking about? Jesus Christ was not tolerant. He
was tolerant in some stance, yes.
No, he wasn't. That's not true. He was very intolerant of people who are mean and cruel, and he always held them to account. It's not true that Jesus was like that. Not at all.
But
he was not tolerant of everything. What he
was... Oh, not everything, for sure, yeah.
No, of anything. Of bad stuff. He's not tolerant of that. What he is someone who holds his hand across the divide. What the Bible teaches us about the Good Samaritan is that you should help those who are in trouble, who are not from your tribe. That is a very different thing from allowing people who are not from your tribe to trot all over you. That is not what Jesus preached at all. Jesus was not tolerant. In fact, Jesus was extremely judgmental. This idea that he didn't judge anyone is absolute nonsense. He did, and he judges us all. And the idea that Christians have is that he will be judging us one day when we are dead. Correct. And that we should live good lives in the meantime. And I'm trying to encourage people to live good lives. Partly, perhaps, you might get judged at the end by God, but also because it's good to live a good life and be a good person. And that includes both being intolerant of those people who are rude, who are mean, who are unable to demonstrate respect for the country and decent behavior, who are unable to understand a sense of duty towards other people. And he most certainly didn't say, live and let live. Don't be ridiculous. Jesus was completely against that. He believes that there ought to be order in society. He believes that we should obey, and that we should obey the 10 Commandments, for instance. The idea that he says live and let live, that's liberalism talking. That is you being a real lefty liberal. Oh, just let me have freedom to do whatever I want to do. Absolutely not. Jesus wasn't about that, and no Christian should be either.
Now, if okay, you just brought that's a good actually take. But what if let's say ethno-nats use exactly that talking point to insist that people should do quote unquote because Jesus would do quote unquote? Because that was very confrontational type of take. We have to say that, you know.
What? This is not confrontational.
But what you just said, I know. But I'm saying, what if somebody was to use that exactly take that you just taken about Jesus to say, hey, we shouldn't do this. We shouldn't allow people in the country. Everybody has to go. Jesus would do this. Jesus would.
Wait. I didn't say Jesus said that he wouldn't allow anyone in the country. I didn't say that.
No, but you did. Go on.
I said that Jesus, there's a difference between holding out your hand to somebody who's not in your tribe and helping them when they are in trouble,
right,
and allowing people either both from your tribe and outside of your tribe to stamp all over you, and for you not to have any sense of who you are, and for you not to believe in what you are, and to make sure that others understand that. That currently is the problem with the country, right? The country is unable to know what it is.
Yeah,
the country has forgotten its old values, which were Judeo-Christian values. I tend to call them small c conservative values that I very much instill in our children at our school. And it used to be the case that all schools would have instilled such values in children. That is no longer happening, and no longer happens across the country, not just in our schools, but via our media. In fact, instead, what you just said, live and let live, is the culture that we are in. You live your best life. You do you. You have the freedom to live however you like. As opposed to, actually, no, it's not about me having the right to do whatever I want. It's about me having certain responsibilities. Responsibility to myself in not letting myself down, but responsibility to my family, to my community, to the people in my surroundings, to make sure that I behave in such a way that allows me the honor and the honor to be able to live a life that is worth living, because I give something back to the country and to my community and to my family. And I don't just sit around on a keyboard insulting people. I behave in such a way that is worthy of respect and admiration.
No.
And I think we've completely, if it is the case that people think as you do about Jesus Christ, I mean, I never hear anyone on the left talking about Jesus.
No,
I mean,
so no, that was from when it comes into theology, the left uses Jesus' kindness in that way especially in American politics, especially when it comes to immigration. They say Jesus would allow all these guys in. Jesus was an immigrant. Jesus was this, and to obviously push their narrative. On the left, yes, I've heard multiple. But I want to switch this on something else, as obviously we're running out of time. You mentioned that, quote, the country has changed and cultures matter. So how can we replace that? How can we fix that? or even reverse that? Because obviously you mentioned that the country has changed and the culture matters, meaning the culture also has changed. So how can we get to the back to where we were?
Yeah, that's a good point. And if I'm going to criticize people for just sitting behind a keyboard, I should give them an alternative.
Correct.
So my suggestion to people is to think about the kinds of values the country used to have. And because we've moved into this world of liberalism, which is very much about live and let live,
Yeah.
and if that's what we embody ourselves as people, then we're going to continue down this road that I consider quite mad, where the country doesn't understand who she is anymore. If, on the other hand, we as individuals embrace those small c conservative values, so what would they be? Having a responsibility for ourselves, having a duty towards other people, having a sense of sacrifice, where we might sacrifice something that's important for ourselves for the sake of the.
Are you liking this video? Well, don't just watch. Click the like button, share, and subscribe so you don't miss the next video or the next live stream that we do. And if you want us to keep getting better and recruit more people and grow, then please support us financially. The first link in the description. By doing so, you'll be able to get access to private videos and private forum between you and I and other members. Let's get back into the video.
Whole.
Yeah.
Feeling patriotic towards the country and loving the country and wanting everyone to be patriotic towards the country, not just those with an English ethnicity, wanting and demanding that everyone be patriotic towards the country, that there's a sense of service in all of us, that we want to serve other people, serve the country, and contribute in such a way to make the world better, to make the country better, not to just complain all the time. I think kindness and gratitude are part of that. But kindness does not mean you roll over and allow people to kick you in the face. That's not kindness, that's stupidity.
Yeah.
But you are kind to those who are outside of your tribe. That is very much a Christian point of view, that you are willing to hold your hand across that divide like the Good Samaritan did and help those from a different tribe. So I believe that that's what we should all be doing as individuals. And then obviously we take our grandmothers out for tea. We look after our own children and make sure that we read to them and that we ask them about their homework and that we take them to museums and to galleries and we do our bit as parents and we help the school do a better job with our children. And we suggest to the head teacher, perhaps it would be a good idea to sing God Save the King every day, and maybe the head teacher will say no, but you politely make these suggestions and talk in such a way that people in 1955 would have expected us all to speak, and that we try and let go of the hatred that some of us might have for immigrants. Because while there are some immigrants who are not respectful of the country, there are lots of us who are. And just because we might have an opinion that differs to yours does not mean that we are bad people. You need to look at the lives that we have lived and think, well, is that person a bad person or have they given something to this country? And perhaps value what they've given to this country and think, well, I can see why it might have been a good thing to have that particular immigrant here, but perhaps there are others, those who are criminals. I can see why you might think, no, those people are bad. I can understand that. But if you just tar everybody with the same brush, well, I suppose for your viewers, I would say you need to understand that when people then look at you and think that you're racist, that's why. You're not able to distinguish between brown and black people. They're all just the same to you. And that's a problem for your own self-image, right? That people are never going to listen to what you're saying. They're not going to take what you're saying seriously.
Correct.
And, I know you'd like to be heard. So maybe try and approach it differently.
Yeah, correct. So it looks like what you're basically what you would offer to the people, or what you would say for people to try change the course of the country, is having active citizen. That's what I got from all that, just being active in your community, in the country. And
yes, but also try and think past the immigration issue. Imagine that there were only white people in the country. Do you really think that everything would be great? Or do you think that everybody would still be talking about live and let live and live your best life. And would that make for a good country? Would it be great if all the schools were still teaching everyone to not be proud of their history, not be proud of their English literature, and not ever reading the English literature that once upon a time everyone knew? Would that be a good thing? Um, you know, thinking about the ways in which the country changed long before we had mass migration.
Mm.
You know, the country changed substantially in the 60s, 70s, 80s. Well, and then in what ways? And the ways that I've just described about losing our small c conservatism and our traditional outlook on life, the rituals that we used to have. The churches are closing. Why are the churches closing?
Mm.
Is that because of immigration? Why are the white people not going to church?
Oh
Why
yeah.
is that happening? Because of immigration?
Yeah.
White people not having children, is that because of immigration?
Well,
I mean,
yeah.
everything to be blamed on immigration? Just to think for a moment,
Mm.
what are those cultural ideas and rituals and traditions that have changed over the decades?
Mm.
And how can you personally make sure that those traditions are in your own lives, in your family's lives, in your community's lives, so that we can get back some of what used to make this country great?
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. I totally, I think whatever you're selling, I am buying. Whatever you're selling, I am buying. But you've mentioned a lot of this white guilt, and a lot of people have obviously referred to this, especially on your podcast, the podcast that I've watched with Dan Wootton, with so many other guys that you've appeared to. You mentioned white guilt, and you speak a lot on this. So what is, for somebody who's watching this, tuning in, what is white guilt?
Yeah, and again, this is something that those on the right who very much dislike me should be more interested in. Why is it that your fellow white countrymen are so guilty? And why are they making the decisions that they're making? Why are they, as politicians, as media pundits, as well, anyone really, saying the things they're saying and refusing to look towards what the country was and trying to build the country up again? You should be interested in that instead of just pointing your fingers at anyone who's brown or black and saying, go home. I mean, that's just ridiculous. But I mean, look, if that's what your viewers want to do, then fine. I mean, white guilt, what is it? Well, they're made to feel guilty, I'd say, by the narrative that white people have privilege and that they're bad people. And then white people feel very much like they want to distinguish themselves from the bad white people and that they're one of the good white people as opposed to being one of the bad white people. Um, that kind of narrative, which basically exists everywhere now in the country and everyone sort of believes, is really pernicious and destructive to the country. I also think it's destructive for ethnic minorities, by the way. It doesn't help us. It hinders our development in schools as children, and it destroys the unity across the country that we need for us to all be happy, whatever color we are, whatever race, whatever religion, and so on. Um, so the thing is that the ethno-nats don't understand just how much they are actually hurting the country, I think, by pushing the narrative that they're pushing.
Yeah, correct. Just before I let you go, miss, I have to bring this up. I think this has been a thing that a lot of people have been blaming. Almost, if it's not immigration, it's this religion. As obviously as an academic yourself, as an educator yourself, I'm assuming you probably gonna teach me something that I don't know about this thing that we're meant to blame or is to blame after immigration, of course, and that is Islam. Is Islam
Yeah.
really the problem that
Well,
we come to all the time?
yes. Well, I know lots of Muslim families who are very respectful of the country, very respectful of our school, and very much engaged with the values that we teach their children, which are just, old-fashioned, small c conservative values that came from Christian ways of thinking. So that has been my own experience. But of course, there are Muslims, individual Muslims, who are problematic. There's no question. And we should be thinking, well, why is that happening? I agree that there is a problem with mass migration. I agree I also think that there is a problem with the way in which the country doesn't know who they are. When you know who you are, like we know who we are at school, then the people who come inside the school demonstrate respect to us. It's the same with the country. It's our fault for not knowing who we are. It's our fault for not. Obviously, there's too many, so there's that. There's mass migration is a problem. But even if we had a small number of immigrants, the country needs to be more sure of what it is. True. And that requires individuals to be more sure of who they are. And your listeners would do well to think beyond just, oh, I know who I am. I'm somebody who just wants all black and brown people on helicopters and out of here. If that's who you are, that's just very shallow. There isn't much to you. You're very hollow. You need to think what actually makes for a meaningful life. And how can you live in such a way that brings meaning, not just to you, but to your family, to your friends, to your country, and to those who are from different tribes to you? And that is, well, I think that's what's important. But obviously, look, all immigrants should demonstrate respect to the country. That correct. I believe, 100%. I am one who does that. Now, if there are ethnic English people who take the point of view that I am not demonstrating respect to the country because I dare to have an opinion about Britishness, well, then no one's ever going to listen to you. Because if you even have an issue with me, who has spent a lifetime inculcating the children I teach into Britain and fighting for the right to be able to teach British history properly and English literature properly, and I and others like me have managed to make inroads on that for the sake of the country. And if you want to put me on a helicopter, well, okay. But nobody's ever going to listen to you ever again. Because it just shows how totally ridiculous that and how extreme that position is. So you're just not doing yourselves any favors. But look, each to his own. You want to keep attacking me? You want to put comments after this video and say how obnoxious I am and so on? Well, I don't know. Go right ahead.
You sound like a fighter, and I'm knowing that you've been in the trenches for over 30 years. You are a fighter. Thank you so much for.
Not over.
Oh, we're not over. We're not over.
Aging. I'm not that old. I'm coming up to 30 years. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for coming on. I really do appreciate your time, miss.
All right. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Our country is built on an idea. It's an idea so powerful that some of us have died to protect it. It shapes our connection, our politics. It forms the fabric of our daily lives. And it seems so fundamental we rarely pause to consider its significance. But here's the thing. This notion is entirely uncrafted. And although it feels like it's getting stronger and it's always going to be here, the truth is, it's becoming more fragile than we realize. This concept is a community. It's built when people with shared interests, value and goals come together, interact regularly, support each other, and work towards a common objective, creating a sense of belonging within the group. That's called a community. You are not just a person who happens to live in Manchester. You are Mancunian, or Londoner, or Brummy, or Scouse. With what our leaders are doing, we are slowly losing this community. So let's stop for a moment to learn why this idea has existed forever and how it got us here. Because once you do, it makes sense why we should keep this concept alive. So help me build this community.
You are listening to The Baraka Show